everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and in today's video I am sharing you the 5-star books I have read out of all of the Romantasy books I have read in my lifetime, which is over 70, and I'm really excited to share with you the best of the best today. So I've been seeing this video in some of its forms around BookTube and I really wanted to give it a go, but with Romantasy. So out of all 71 Romantasy books I've read since being on this channel, since owning a Goodreads account, I wanted to share with you the ones that I rated 5-star, because I find Romantasy 5 stars quite few and far between. I am, as you all know if you've been watching this channel for a while, a huge Romantasy fan, but even I can hold my hands up and say there is a lot of bad Romantasy out there and there's a lot of average Romantasy out there, which is fine, and I love a kind of average Romantasy, if that makes sense. I like a Romantasy that doesn't necessarily blow my mind, but just kind of fills that like Romantasy hole in my life at the time. But equally, I want to share with you the best Romantasies out there, the best fantasy romance, and this video is your one-stop shop in terms of the best of the best. So this video might also be quite long because I surprisingly have quite a lot of 5-star Romantasies. Did not expect that actually. So grab yourself a cup of tea or something warm. It is raining so heavily out there, so I am very, very cozy. I've got my candle on, I've got my cup of tea, and I'm talking to you all today about Romantasy. Is there anything better? Let's get going with every Romantasy book I've rated 5-star. So these might be in strange orders. I'm going to try and group them together in terms of like series, if I have rated like a series 5 stars. But they are going to be in strange orders because some of these I read a few years ago and some of them are more recent. So bear with me on the order. But the first book that I rated 5-star, which has come up on my Goodreads, is Grave Mercy by Robin Lefevers. So I've spoken about this book a fair amount on my channel. I was one of like the early fans of this series when this first came out, and bear in mind this is young adult, so you're not going to get that like super spicy Romantasy with this, but this is such an epic book and I adored this when it first came out. So Grave Mercy is set in this kind of medieval inspired French world, and it's set around a group of assassin nuns. So this follows a woman called Ismay whose job as an assassin is to get into the Breton court and basically work out who the traitor is in this court. I'm pretty sure there's a romance with the kind of queen of the court's brother called Duval, I think his name is, and oh my god, I just remember being obsessed with this romance. To me, this is everything a good Romantasy should be. There is a great romance, there is an incredible kind of fantasy world, and also there is kind of a historical element to this, which to me that ticks all of the boxes of a really solid Romantasy for me. I like a historical inspired Romantasy personally, and the fact that it was set in kind of like this 15th century inspired Brittany, loved it, absolutely adored it. So I think if you are looking for a YA Romantasy that really packs a punch, the romance was so slow burn but so good. Oh, I'm just obsessed with this book. Actually, this is a series called His Fair Assassin, and the second book, which is called Dark Triumph, is also a 5-star read for me. So I wanted to kind of segue from the first book into the second book, Dark Triumph, because oh my god, this was just as good as book 1. Now this features one of the assassin nuns that we meet in book 1, and she's quite a different character from Ismay in book 1, but the love interest is someone that we meet in book 1. I really love how you follow a familiar group of characters in the series and you also like see each of them have their love story. These are quite gritty, they're quite dark, and obviously they are YA, but do not let that hold you back in terms of like a really great Romantasy, which is weighed a little bit more on the fantasy elements, but the romances are amazing and I was mainly reading them for those, let's be honest. So I really would recommend Grave Mercy and the sequel Dark Triumph. I haven't yet read book 3, which is called Mortal Heart. I think it's somewhere on my bookshelves, but I still haven't read that yet and I need to read that soon. It's been a long time since that book's been on my TBR, let's just say that. Okay, there's 2 more books that are in a series as well. I also rated 5 stars. They are another YA book series. The first book is called Venom by Fiona Paul and the second book is called Belladonna by Fiona Paul. So this is incredible. This is set in like a kind of medieval, early Renaissance Venice and features Cassandra, who is a very wealthy woman. She has everything she needs. She has a very handsome fiance and then her parents die and her world kind of turns upside down. Not only that, but she finds a murdered woman in her garden and meets this mysterious boy called Falco, who kind of introduces her to a world of courtesans and secret societies. And I remember reading this book and falling head over heels with this world that Fiona Paule's created. Obviously, I rated these 5 stars a long time ago. Like, I read this probably 2014, 2012 maybe, who knows. But I remember falling deeply in love. And I think if you're a fan of historical romantasy that's YA, you will really, really enjoy this series as well. I can't remember what happened to the 3rd book. I mustn't have read that. I need to, again, finish off these series that I've been reading for years. But I remember falling deeply in love with this romantasy series, and I really hope you will too if you want kind of like a Venetian, Italian, kind of dark underbelly of Venice inspired romantasy. And let's just say the romance is top notch. Absolutely loved it. So those 2 I rated 5 stars as well. Now I'm just going to get these next recommendations out of the way. The first one is of course A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. The second one is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. I rated both of these books, book 1 and book 2 in the ACOTAR series, 5 stars. Is anyone surprised? Of course not. I do not need to go over why I love the series so much, but this is Fae romantasy. Really starts off the initial trilogy as YA, and let's just say the later books are most certainly not YA, but I love them all the same. So I also rated book 4, I want to say, in the series, which is A Court of Silver Flames. I also rated that 5 stars. I was obsessed with Nesta's story, absolutely invested. And I think this is like, I know A Court of Silver Flames really kind of divides some people because there's not a lot of plot in there. It is mainly just half the book and smut, let's be real. But I really loved hers and Cassian's love story, and I've been waiting for it for a long, long time. So I think if you just want some really, really good romantasy, like I do feel like Sarah J Maas just kind of kickstarted the genre into something different. And yeah, I adore it. I'm one of those suckers who just loves Sarah J Maas's romantasies, and I have no regrets about that. So these 3 books, I did rate 5 stars. I think book 3 in the series, A Court of Wings and Ruin, I rated 4 stars. I feel I didn't rate the ending as much as I did like the rest of the series, so that's not included in this video. But book 1, book 2, book 4, incredible, no notes. The next 5-star romantasy series that I absolutely adored when I read this a few years ago is the Winners series by Marie Rutkowski. So the first book is The Winner's Curse, the second book is The Winner's Crime, the third book is The Winner's Kiss. I was head over heels obsessed with this series, and this is a Roman inspired YA romantasy series. It's a really unique series, to be honest, and I found it very, very political. It kind of reminds me of like Danielle L. Jensen's romantasies, where they definitely lean heavier on the fantasy, the political fantasy side, but then the romance is also 10 out of 10. So the first book, The Winner's Curse, features Kestrel, who is a general's daughter, and this is a Roman inspired fantasy world, and really, really intriguing, really fascinating. She ends up buying a slave called Aaron, and basically she starts to fall in love with him. She basically falls deeper for him, but then learns that he's got secrets of his own. The wider series is so much more political. There is kind of a war element, and let's just say Aaron and Kestrel are on opposite sides of that war, and it does get very kind of like enemies to lovers. And even though they are enemies in all senses of the word, they can't deny their attraction for each other. And genuinely, I absolutely adored the series. I think if you're looking for some brilliantly written romantasy, a kind of unique world, I really would recommend the Winners series. Okay, now I have to mention this series, which is a huge 5-star read for me. This is the Captive Prince series, and this is by C.S. Pacat. This is definitely adult and kind of very different from the other series that are YA that I mentioned here today. But this series absolutely hooked me in. But this is basically about 2 princes. One of them is called Damon, and he is usurped by his brother for his throne, and he is forced into slavery. And he ends up in the court of his enemy, who is Laurent, who is Prince of Vere, I think that's how you pronounce it. And basically they are on enemy sides. So Laurent's kingdom is the enemy of Damon's kingdom. And Damon has to keep his identity secret this whole time. And he obviously ends up getting closer to Laurent. He is, you know, working around him all the time. He is obviously in servitude to him. And there is an undeniable attraction there between them. And what transpires over the course of this series is heartbreaking, just absolutely addictive. Like, the romance is insane, and also very, very political, and also quite brutal. I would say this isn't for the faint of heart. There is a lot of trigger warnings assigned to this series, so do look it up if you know, are sensitive to those elements of kind of slavery. There's a lot of kind of like dubious consent and all that type of stuff, but genuinely I adored the series. I had my heart broken several times. I was rooting for them the whole way through. Damon and Laurent are two of my favorite romantasy couples. They're just amazing, and this series really took me by surprise. It's obviously a gay love story, and I was rooting for the both of them. I thought it was amazing. So please do read the series. I don't see that it's gotten loads of like hype or attention on BookTube, and I would love to change that. Okay, so the next series I have to mention, it's another YA romantasy, but I think this won't come as much of a surprise, so I'm going to gloss over this one quite quickly. This is of course the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. The first book is The Cruel Prince, then there is The Wicked King, and then The Queen of Nothing. So this is a fae romantasy series featuring Jude, who is a human girl who is brought up in the Feylands. Her path basically crosses over with Prince Cardan, who is a Fey prince, and this is definitely a bully romance in terms of like, especially early on, their dynamic is just intense because they both really hate each other, and like, this isn't just like enemies to lovers, this is like hatred to lovers, you know, like pure hatred. And that's part of the reasons why I just absolutely love this series, because you really go on a journey with them. The romance in the series, in my opinion, is one of my all-time favorites of a romantic series that I've ever read. And I don't need to explain anymore. You must read The Cruel Prince. If you haven't already, if you've never heard of it, take this as your sign to just go buy a copy, and you won't regret it, genuinely. I think the only book I didn't give 5 stars in the series was the second book, The Wicked King. I think I gave that 4 stars because I just didn't like massively fall in love with it as much as The Cruel Prince and the third book in the series, which is The Queen of Nothing. So that's a shame, but still an incredible series all round. The next book I rated 5 stars is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. This is the first book in the Crescent City series, and this is an urban romantasy, so set in kind of a modern fantasy world, and I feel like I don't really need to go into this as well. I feel like you all know what House of Earth and Blood and Crescent City is about, but it is one of Sarah J Maas's adult romantasy series where basically it follows Bryce, who is half fae, half human, and this really sees her uncover the murder of one of her closest friends. And I'm not going to go too into this. This is a very big series. There are so many different plot lines, and I really loved the first book. I gave it 5 stars. I didn't give the rest of the series 5 stars. So this is now a complete series, i.e. Bryce's story has been wrapped up. As the series progressed, I did not love the romance elements, which obviously are crucial in a romantasy book. I didn't really love her relationship with Hunt, who is the love interest. I kind of just was a bit like, didn't really root for them. He didn't really give me the same vibes as like Rhys in ACOTAR, or, you know, any other of Sarah J Maas's heroes. So that's such a shame, but I did really rate book 1. Now the next book I rated 5 stars is another YA series. This is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maharin. So I rated the first book in this series 5 stars. I didn't necessarily rate the next ones in the series 5 stars again, but this is one of my all-time favorite worlds, I think. So Serpent and Dove is about a witch called Lou, and she is kind of forced to marry a witch hunter called Reed, and basically they're so perfect together. I don't even want to, yeah, it's amazing. It's like enemies to lovers, witch hunter and a witch, and the kind of building romance of like, he obviously doesn't know that she's a witch, and yet she falls for him anyway. It's incredible. I really love this series. If you like witches and if you kind of want a forbidden love, then I really would recommend this series, especially book 1. I just fell in love with it, and Lou is such a great character and her relationship with Reed is fab as well. Now, I have to mention one of my all-time favorite romantasy series, and that's the Kingdom of the Wicked series by Kerri Maniscalco. I talk about this obviously a lot, and the first book is Kingdom of the Wicked, the second book is Kingdom of the Cursed, and then Kingdom of the Feared is the final book in this arc of the series. Now, the first book was kind of marketed as YA, and then it became clear that like, this can't be YA. So the series ages up and it becomes adult by the third and final book. Like, let's just say it's very adult. So don't go into it thinking you've got a YA series here. It definitely is steamier than as expected. But obviously no complaints there, because this book series is amazing. This follows Amelia, who is a witch and her twin sister is murdered. In terms of the setting, we're set in Italy in the kind of like 1600s, 1700s, absolutely gorgeous setting. So when Amelia finds her twin sister Vittoria murdered, she must do something that her family have told her never to do, and that is trust one of the 7 princes of hell, Prince Wrath. He is a demon of hell, and in order to solve the mystery of her twin sister's murder, they must join forces to find out who has actually committed strings of murders of all these witches. So absolutely adore this series. Wrath and Amelia, no notes. No notes, incredible. And there's also a spin-off series to this as well, and that book was Throne of the Fallen. That's the first in a new series that features each of the 7 princes of hell. And yeah, I'm absolutely obsessed. So there you go. I think Throne of the Fallen I also gave 5 stars. So let's throw this in there as well. I actually adore this world that Kerri Maniscalco has created. And yeah, just keep giving me more books about the 7 Princes of Hell. Like, is that not the perfect setting for a romantasy book? Now, I also quickly want to mention another series that you'll be fed up of me talking about, so I'm gonna gloss over it quickly, just so you don't switch off. You know, stay along to the end, guys. This is, of course, the Bridge Kingdom series, which I parrot on about non-stop on this channel. Every single romantasy video of mine features the Bridge of Kingdom series. And I would apologize about that, but I'm genuinely not sorry about that because it's such a good series. You should all read it. Book 1 is obviously The Bridge Kingdom. Book 2 is The Traitor Queen. And then that is kind of the end of 2 of the characters' arcs. We also have a novella in between that as well, and that's called The Calm Before the Storm, and that's kind of like a kind of bridge novella in between Aaron and Lara's story and the next part of the series, which starts with The Inadequate Heir and then culminates in The Endless War. So this series is kind of like a larger world. So the first 2 books are centered around Lara and Aaron. Now, Lara is the princess of an enemy kingdom and Aaron is the prince or the king that she is sent to marry and then bring down his kingdom from the inside. And in the 3rd and 4th books, these are centered around Lara's brother called Keris and a general of an enemy nation called Zara. Obviously, I've rated all of these books 5 stars pretty much. I genuinely think it's Keris and Zara's story, which is like the most emotional, nuanced. I think if you're looking for something deeper than your standard romantasy, definitely read this series just so you can get to their story because it's just so, so good. And I have no notes on the series. It's one of the best romantasies out there. Please do read it. The next book I have to mention is 2 novellas from Carissa Broadbent. Now, Carissa Broadbent wrote the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which most people know The Serpent and the Wings of Night as the kind of biggest book from that. Now, I did not rate that book, nor its sequel, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, 5 stars. I just didn't love Araya's story. This is vampire fantasy romance, which I really, really love Carissa Broadbent's writing of and kind of the wider world of this series. So the 2 novellas, Six Scorched Roses and Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, I absolutely adored and rated 5 stars. I think if you have read The Serpent and the Wings of Night and you're kind of like, I don't really get what the hype is about, try these 2 novellas. Six Scorched Roses is set in the same universe, it's a lot shorter, and it's 10 times better, genuinely. So this is centered around a woman who, her entire town is dying of this plague. And she goes to this vampire that she knows is kind of like living in this old crumbling house outside of her town. And she makes a deal with him where she brings him these roses in return for vials of his blood to experiment with and see if she can kind of save the town from this plague. Now, Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, which I've just finished and absolutely fell in love with, it was such a good book, is basically about this character who has joined this kind of like religious order where they remove her eyes in the name of this goddess who grants her incredible powers where she can kind of sense through these things called threads the kind of world around her. So it's kind of like you lose your eyesight but you gain more insight into the world. And her job is to assassinate this vampire conqueror that has moved into her world and is trying to conquer the land. She really has to go undercover here and pretend to be his seer, his oracle, in order to help him with his war effort, but she is kind of a double agent and she's waiting for the right time to kill him. Obviously, in both of these novellas, they fall madly in love and it's perfect. I love the way Carissa Broadbent does romance, and I'm so happy that I read these books, these novellas, because I really do get Carissa Broadbent's writing style now, and she's really talented at writing romantasy. So I would recommend these ones if you have read The Serpent and the Wings of Night and you just weren't sure. And the final romantasy book I rated 5 stars is This Vicious Grace, and this is by Emily Theed. So this is the first book in the last Fenestra, I think it's called. This is I believe it's a YA series, it might not be. But this is an incredible romantasy book. It is a bodyguard romance and I fell head over heels in love with this. Now, this is a series and I haven't actually read book 2 yet, but that has come out recently, I think. But this book is something really special and I loved it. So this follows Alessa, who is something called a Fenestra. Now, her world is basically, you know, at the mercy of these monsters. So the world is cursed, and every few years these monsters descend kind of like a plague to eliminate the island that she lives on. And in order to kind of help with this, their goddess has created something called a Fenestra, which every few generations one pops up, and they are able to basically save the island by being a conduit of power. So they have to marry something called a font or a fonte, however you pronounce it, and this font has the power that only Alessa as the Fenestra can channel to defeat these monsters. The issue is Alessa is killing every single Fonte she marries, and she is at a complete loss as to what to do next. So the island definitely starts to turn against her because she's obviously killing all these like men. She doesn't know how to channel her power, it's a complete mess. And she decides she needs a bodyguard because her life is definitely at risk from the general public. And she meets this guy called Dante who has secrets of his own, but he agrees to be her bodyguard. And of course they fall in love and it is absolutely perfect. I really love the both of them. This story is beautiful, it's really well crafted. The world building elements are perfect, and importantly the romance aspects are brilliant too. So I think if you're looking for a romantasy that definitely is unique, I would really recommend This Vicious Grace. I really adored it. I can't wait to read book 2. Do let me know if you've read this or the second book, which I think is called This Cursed Light, down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And that, my friends, is every single 5-star romantasy book I've read. I hope there's going to be more to add to this list. I would love to keep making this video to show you guys the new 5-star romantasies that I've been discovering. But do let me know your favourite romantasy books or fantasy romance books down in the comments below. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And let's just get the recommendations flowing, because romantasy really is one of those genres where it can be so hit and miss, and I just wanted to create this video to give you guys loads of recommendations that you can get reading today. So do subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye.